9 o'clock on the 3rd of August, a Wednesday night of 2025. We're having a look at NGC 2300, one of several circumpolar galaxies that I finally got the mount to align to this very evening. I believe NGC 2300 is probably this brighter galaxy here. I do not have data on it. There's a fainter one nearby. We will have to check with adventuresindeepspace.com in order to get more information on it. There's a little bit of elongation to the stars, so this is we're getting a bit of drift. Let me tell you what we are at. We're at 5-second exposure time. We shouldn't be capturing any kind of elongation of stars. Let me take a moment and I will reinitialize image capture. All right, I just cleared the stack. The stars look pretty good. Let's see after a few passes and overlays whether or not we get the same kind of distortion. Meanwhile, I'm going to zoom in on the image. This is a 30x image, 20% e-zoom on El Quattro, the fast newt with coma corrector. I did a little bit of a primary alignment the other night, so the stars should look better across the field. F4 is extremely fast, and I found that there was distortion at the edge of the field of view. I'm liking both galaxies we're seeing here, one of which should be 2300 NGC, and another is a neighbor nearby. Let's do a little bit of a zoom. So we're at 20, that's 30x. We go to 40, we're now at 60x. I can center our studies up in the field. So let's go now to 100% where we're getting that extension on the stars. Let's see what we get when we back out. Here's our 150x view of NGC 2300 and its associate. Unfortunately, we're not tracking particularly well, and when I zoom back out, we are still getting the same extension. There's probably a way for correcting this, position error control or something on the SkyWatcher EQ6R Pro, but I have just begun to explore its many exasperating functions compared to the Gemini 2, which I find far more approachable as a setup now, and gives superior results in terms of tracking, because I can sometimes do 60-second exposures and I'm limited maximally to about 10 using the Z-World Imager on El Quattro. Here at 30x we are seeing, wow, this is not right. We've got the same two galaxies again. I'm wondering, this should be NGC 2276. I thought I saw a slight adjustment. It's entirely possible this is NGC 2276. I'll have to compare it to the previous image. I did have to reinitiate the stack. This is our view at, we're now up to 60x. Continuing forward once again to 150x through the F4 scope. We are getting stellar extension. Let's go ahead and break off on this one now. This is NGC 2268, and you'll see that it's a very sharp edge-on galaxy off to the left-hand field view. It did successfully move to it using the same technique, so I do believe that last galaxy was the neighbor of 2300. All the galaxies you'll be seeing this evening all came out of the Wiltirian sky guide. And I did a brief study of the average brightness of the galaxies that are circumpolar, because I made a complete list of circumpolar galaxies in the Wiltirian, and they were all mostly between 12.0 and 13.0 average brightness, which meant they ranged from about magnitude 12.5 to 14 magnitude average surface brightness, so cumulative is about 12.5. So basically the Wiltirian guide is probably set up primarily for 12-inch scopes. This is NGC 2268. Let's do some zoomage and center it up and go to 150x, which excuse me, exposes all the pixels. Once again, we are getting distension in stars, so we are not tracking particularly well. I may have to reduce to 2-second exposure times. Okay, as you can see in this field, we do have high thin clouds as well as a middling second quarter moon. So we are not getting the best of views. However, this galaxy, NGC 4750, located right here, is another roughly 12th magnitude average brightness galaxy. And we just centered up on it, and we're getting distension of the stars in a different direction. Not a bad view, but we are against poor background sky, and I am refraining from playing with the histogram this evening. I am using my older laptop. It did succeed at capturing 15 minutes of video last time, and I was able to use Movie Maker that's on this to be able to actually put out the last astrovid I did in this series. Okay, our next study, which is located in an entirely different part of the field because it's in a different location in the sky, and my 3-star alignment did not go particularly well this evening because the last star, which is Altair, was not even in the Finder field when I did my 3rd alignment for modeling. However, we are looking at NGC 6503. It's a very nice view. High thin clouds are rolling in. It's hard to actually see anything beyond second magnitude stars in the sky. Of course, I am looking at the screen, so that makes it rather difficult, but this is a rather magnificent edge-on galaxy, NGC 6503. Very, very nice, pushing the magnification up to 150x. What a nice slice of a galaxy it is, but notice the distension in those stars. We will revisit all these galaxies on a better night as part of a project that I'm doing. Well, it's not going to really be the rounders because I wanted to continue with the rounder series from where I left off. But basically, what I'm doing is ranging between 90 and 80 degrees north latitude, then 80 to 70, whatever is accessible in a given evening. That is my current project. Let's back out and get a sharper view of this baby. Hopefully tracking will occur. Looks like we just had a satellite passing through the field of view on this fairly high declination circumpolar galaxy, NGC 6503. Pierced by a passing satellite, NGC 6946 is the brightest average brightness galaxy of the evening at 11.3. As you can see, it's quite large. I think I'm going to reinitialize the stack so we can get rid of that satellite passage that bisected the galaxy. It's very interesting to watch the galaxies develop with each pass. They do get more and more present, brighter, with greater amount of detail. This is once again 6946. It is the brightest of the galaxies this evening. Let's go ahead and push the magnification up first to 60x, which is probably very nice for a galaxy as large as this one. You can see spiralicity going off in the directions. Our stars are starting to distend. Let's go ahead and we'll get the uglier view at 150x. There we have it. You can see the extensions of the spiral arm and its beautiful face on galaxy. Too bad we do not have a better night to view it, but such a night will come, especially with the passing of the moon. Okay, I thought I'd take this opportunity to go through various exposure times. We're down to 0.2 seconds. Remember, the seeing is not particularly good this evening, high thin clouds. You can make out the galaxy here in the field. It has an average brightness of 11.3, which means it's probably a 10th magnitude galaxy with something like a 13th average surface brightness per arc minute. That's our view at lower magnification. I don't think I'll push it. 0.2 seconds, I'm going to go through a series and give you an idea of how it develops, but it is visible through what I consider, on a really good night of seeing, a 6-inch aperture scope.
She's a little bit funny.
Okay, we're now up to a 0.5 second exposure of 6946. We can see the core with some sense of extensions in the frontier. That's the equivalent of what I would think at 0.5 seconds is roughly a 10-inch equivalent exposure time of this galaxy. Getting some doubling of stars here, so not a particularly good capture in real time. I'm not sure what's going on. There's probably some kind of imbalance in the scope. I did have to replace an eyepiece with the ZWO imager, and I have some difficulty getting perfect balance anyway because I have to hand carry the scope out. I'm probably not using a heavy enough counterweight on the scope. Okay, let's watch this 1 second exposure time view of NGC 6946 evolve on the screen. This is more like what you'd see through the same kind of core scene in a probably a 15-inch scope, 1 second exposure. When we go to 5, we're going to be pushing something closer to a 30-inch scope, but remember the seeing is the principal issue tonight. The galaxy would be much brighter at all settings if we were to have a nice clear night with a lack of cloud layer, high thin cloud layer overhead, and a moon, second quarter moon illuminating that layer. And now we're watching as a 2 second exposure time fulfills itself. Doubling the exposure time basically adds half of the aperture to the previous view. So if we assume it was a 15-inch view, we're up now to about a 22.5-inch view under these core conditions. I like the fact that we're seeing some spikes on the stars. That tells me that even though we're off axis, we are getting a pretty flat field with a flat field flattener. At 2 seconds exposure time, it probably makes some sense to at least boost the magnification up to 60x. We're seeing spiral arms, we're seeing a stellar core with an expansive core region. It's interesting how the average brightness is fairly consistent throughout every aspect of this galaxy, but the core, I would say it's probably only has 2 spiral arms, so it's probably an SB, capital B, and it's probably an SBC class 3 times removed from the lenticular in terms of its maturation as a galaxy. Okay, here's our last view of NGC 6946. We're back to our original 5 seconds of exposure. I'll do the zoom in again, and we can watch the stars elongate out. This is Sky Mayo. It looks like we're getting a little bit better view right now. Let's push it to 150x. Here is our view. We are getting distension in the stars. I want to pick out one more galaxy that's circumpolar and then move on to the dumbbell planetary because I want to be able to compare out the sky conditions. The galaxy we're seeing now right about there on the screen at 30x is NGC 6951. It's a perfect 12.0 average brightness galaxy and should just be within the range of a 6-inch scope on a good night of seeing. I'll do a zoom in first. This is our 60x view. It does seem to have some extension to it. I won't bother. Well, let's go ahead and push it up. I'm getting close to 15 minutes at this point. I do want to capture the dumbbell. So that's our view. I would like also to try it at 0.2 seconds exposure. What I meant to say is 0.2 seconds exposure. I do believe it's somewhere on the screen vaguely, but the sky conditions do not warrant actually easily being able to pick it up. Let's go to Messier 27 for our final view of the evening. Okay, our final view of the evening is going to be Messier 27, the Dumbbell Nebula, planetary nebula, and we are getting a nice view of its extensions. It's not particularly well placed on the screen. Scope 3-star alignment did not go particularly well, but well enough this evening. We're running up against 15 minutes. On the older laptop, let's do a bit of a zoom in and see if we can position it in the field for a more magnified view up to 100%. We are seeing the full extension of the football plus this extension off to the side. So maybe the seeing was better tonight than I expect. And with that, I am about to say, as you might guess, carpe octo.